Hey guys, welcome to another Thursday edition of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. My name is Nick, and this week I'm going to talk about, I guess it's not really a topic, I guess it is, but it's more of a confession. I'm going to talk about a couple of classic albums that I just have never listened to before. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on the link down below and go check out the Vinyl Den Facebook group. It's just a growing community, just kind of a place to keep the music conversation going. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you get notifications every time we drop a new episode, which I think we're doing the Tuesday new release episodes. We're also doing a Thursday episode and also the Sunday episode with me and Andy. So a couple of weeks back, I was on a different Facebook group, and because I'm on a couple of the vinyl and music ones, but someone posted a picture. I'll put it up on the screen here. It says, "Name a classic album you've never listened to." And there's several that I kind of have to admit to, but there's also some really interesting comments that, and it wasn't a really long thread. I want to say it was probably maybe 115 different responses, and a lot of them were kind of repetitive, and some comments were just kind of making fun of other people for the stuff that he have or haven't listened to. But some of the ones that kind of caught my attention were there were 6 different people that said they had never listened to any Beatles albums, but which I found really kind of strange, especially the White Album. There was 4 or 5 people that specifically pointed out the White Album. There was 3 people that said they never listened to any Elvis music, which I guess I can see that if you're older, or I'm sorry, not older, but younger. If you're in your probably early to mid 20s, you probably haven't listened to a whole lot of Elvis before in your life. For me personally, one that really kind of got me was there was 8 people that said they never listened to Dark Side of the Moon, which as a big Pink Floyd fan, I found really kind of shocking, that because I think it is an album that is absolutely incredible, one of the greatest albums ever recorded. But then again, it's just my opinion. Another one that there's a couple people that pointed out, and this is one that I never really thought of before, and I guess I've almost picked it up a couple of different times, but it's one that I have never listened to, and this is "In the Court of the Crimson King" by King Crimson. And it's just there's a lot of that progressive rock stuff that I really like. But I'm kind of picky when it comes to progressive rock, and so I guess I really don't know if I like it or not if I haven't listened to it, but that's definitely one of the albums that I have not listened to. Another one that I haven't listened to, and I don't think anyone else mentioned it on the post, but someone actually posted a picture of it in the Vinyl Den Facebook group within the last couple of days, but that's Graceland by Paul Simon. I've heard a couple of songs off of it. It's not like I'm unfamiliar with Paul Simon's music. It's just one of those albums that I guess I'd never really thought about listening to. Some other of the kind of more interesting comments on there were of albums that people hadn't listened to that I was really surprised about was Led Zeppelin IV. With Stairway to Heaven, I figured most people would at least, I guess a lot of people have heard the song, but maybe never really sat down and actually listened to the album. It's, even though Stairway to Heaven is a great song, I don't think it's really even the best song on that album, but I think When the Levee Breaks is probably the best track on there, but it's close between that and Stairway to Heaven for me. Electric Ladyland by Jimi Hendrix is another one that's just a absolutely fantastic album that I think a lot of people I think when it comes to Jimi Hendrix, a lot of people kind of listen to the best of kind of stuff and never really get into some of the deeper tracks, which Jimi Hendrix has an absolutely incredible catalog. So if you haven't listened to Electric Ladyland, it's definitely a great album to listen to. Another album that a couple of people said on here, and one that I kind of have to admit to, is 2112 by Rush. Ian's a pretty big Rush fan, so I know I've heard some of the tracks off the album, but it's just another one of those albums that Rush is one of those kind of bands that are really kind of hit or miss for me. But it's an album that I've never really sat down and really made myself listen to. I'm sure, like I said, I've listened to stuff from Rush before, and I've enjoyed a lot of their music, so it's one that I probably will eventually listen to. But for one reason or another, it's just one that I haven't yet. There's a couple people that mentioned they had never listened to Black Sabbath before, which, I guess it's not really like album specific. It's more of like band in general. I know there's some other people that mentioned like they had never listened to Fleetwood Mac, was another band that had been mentioned a couple of times. But when it comes to Black Sabbath, I don't really think I even really thought about it until recently. But I'm much more of a fan of the Ozzy era of Black Sabbath. I know there's a lot of people out there that love the Dio era and really prefer the Dio era over the Ozzy era. But for me personally, I never really got into that era of Black Sabbath, and I listened to part of Mob Rules when it was released earlier this year, and really that's the first time I actually sat down and listened to any of the Dio stuff. So I guess really that whole Dio era, you can say, or at least I can say that I've never actually listened to the entire album. I want to say I think there's like 2 or 3 tracks I listened to off of Mob Rules, and it's good. It just, I don't know, it's just not my thing. I'm used to that Ozzy sound, so I guess I kind of prefer that era. So just I don't know, and I'm sure I'll probably get a lot of grief from people out there. Like I said, they absolutely love the Dio era, but it's just one that like I said, I never really got into. And maybe I never really got into that Dio era because I'm not a big heavy metal fan, and I know Black Sabbath is like the godfathers of heavy metal, and obviously I've listened to all the Ozzy stuff, but outside of that, in Metallica, I really don't get into heavy metal a lot. And there's 2 bands that I'm sure a ton of people absolutely love out there. And I'm sure you can drop me a comment down below and, give me a bunch of grief for it if you really want. But 2 bands, Iron Maiden and Megadeth, are 2 bands that I just could never really get into. And I know Ian's definitely an Iron Maiden fan. I don't really know what he thinks of Megadeth, but I know he had albums by both of those bands when we were growing up. So I know I've listened to some of their music. It's just... like I said, for one reason or another, I just could never really get into their sound. And I'm kind of picky sometimes when it comes to vocalists. One of the things that really drew me to Metallica was James Hetfield's voice. I think he's a great singer for that style of music. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a vocal thing or what it is with those 2 bands. I just could never really get into them. So I got 2 comments left and 2 albums left for me. As far as like the comments go, a really big one that I was really surprised about was a couple people said they had never listened to the album Thriller, which, I get if you're, if it's because of Michael Jackson's personal life and things like that. A lot of people struggle with kind of separating the music from the artist and things like that, which, I get, whatever. But Thriller is just an absolutely fantastic album. And it's one that, it's probably one of my earliest memories growing up is sitting on the floor in my bedroom listening to Thriller on vinyl. I had one of those little plastic record players I used to listen to it on. But another band that a lot of people said they had never listened to was Nirvana, which I guess I get if you're older or if you're in your late teens, early 20s, maybe you never really lived through that grunge era or really got into that kind of music. But being the generation that I'm in, who really kind of came of age through that late 80s, early 90s period when Nirvana really kind of blew up on the scene, it's really kind of interesting to see that band on a list of albums or artists that people haven't listened to. But 2 for me is, and the first album is on a ton of the top 10 lists as far as like albums of the last 20 or 30 years or top 100 albums of all time, and that is In Rainbows by Radiohead. It's I am a Radiohead fan. I've listened to a lot of their music. I've got 3 other albums I think on vinyl, but for one reason or another I've never actually sat down and listened to In Rainbows. Another one is Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. Big Bob Dylan fan. I love a lot of his music, but I think I kind of gravitate more towards like the greatest hits stuff when it comes to Dylan. I know I've heard tracks off of Blood on the Tracks, but it's just one of those albums that, once again, I've never actually sat down and listened to the whole thing. I don't know, guys. That's all I got for you today. Drop me a comment down below and let me know what you guys think. What albums are out there that are considered these classic albums that you've never actually sat down and listened to before. I think it's really kind of an interesting topic to kind of go through because there's a lot of stuff out there that over the years, like I said, for one reason or another, I just a lot of it's not even intentional. I just haven't sat down and actually listened to the album. If there's a greatest hits, like in Bob Dylan's case, I probably listen to a lot of that stuff. And there's definitely tracks off of his greatest hits that are on that album. But, I don't know. Just let me know what you guys think. If you liked the episode, make sure you give me the thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below. And that's all I got. Until next time, guys, keep on spinning. Peace.